Hey guys, welcome to the FitTown Show. This is Coach Andrew with Coach Tony. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about how patience can unlock a stronger mindset. And if you didn't guess it, well, probably by the time you're listening to this, you will know that we are switching our focus from confidence with our mindset focus over the last 5 weeks to now patience for the next 5 weeks. So we're going to be talking a lot about patience in our workouts, patience outside the gym, how to apply that. So today's really a podcast to give you guys an overview, why we picked this word, why we think it can be so valuable at this time, at this season for everybody, and diving into really how patience can make you a stronger, more capable human being. So Tony's going to kick it off with just kind of giving us a definition of it and what patience isn't as well.
So yeah, the definition that I found for patience is the ability to endure difficult circumstances, the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. I think it's important to mention what patience is not when we define patience, because I think that confidence was such a cool word and a strong word, and to go into patience, it's that kind of slows things down a little. And we want to get across the point that patience is not slow or lazy or waiting for things to happen. And patience is not the absence of action. So in one thing I found when I was researching patience, it was patience isn't actually action. It can be action and it can be inaction. Sometimes there's a lot of action we have to take to have inaction. Yeah. Right? Because we get impatient and we want to do something and we force something to happen rather than being patient and taking action to not take action. Right? Yeah. So patience is more of the attitude behind the action. And that's what we want people to really kind of figure out with themselves as they go through this time, this new word, that, what is the attitude I'm having as I go through the action or inaction?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring it up that way, because I think there's a lot of things in life that you can be more successful at by taking less action, like food and weight loss is an example. Most people overeat, and their ability to be patient and actually allow themselves to have gaps in the day when they're not eating, not consuming stuff, especially on the weekends, they might mindlessly eat. It takes intention to do that, but essentially they're choosing to do inaction. A lot of happiness and stress is overconsumption of, email and social media and all these other intake things. And it's you could choose to do inaction, and it takes patience to be okay and let the process play out rather than to, get antsy and try to make something happen. And then you go back to the same habits all the time.
Yeah. I think you've said it about yourself before. You'll say oh yeah, I have an addictive personality. Yeah. That could also be reworded as I have an impatient personality. Yeah. And once you reword it, you're oh yeah, I can have a little more patience, or I can learn to grow my patience when it comes to, just kind of eating whatever I want to eat, or it could be on the other side of I have to work out every single day. There's some kind of impatience behind that kind of gives you what you might call an addictive personality.
Yeah, I like that. I like some of the synonyms you put on here, which is self-control, composure, restraint, stoicism, equilibrium, serenity, mercy, compassion, and grace. And I really like that last one of grace, is giving yourself grace as well is a big aspect of patience. Knowing that success is not going to be linear. You're going to have these times where you go a little bit backwards, and patience is the ability to recognize that, have acceptance over that, so you can start making good decisions again and not just let that spiral out of control.
Yeah, I think why it was so important to get patience in here kind of early as we do different mindset words throughout the year. It's patience is kind of the Swiss Army knife of words, I feel like. Mm-hmm. If you have that down and you have that in your toolbox, then things like confidence, or I don't want to give away too many words, but courage and the other things we're going to talk about, when you have patience with that thing, it helps you learn it better, and kind of, because everything is layered, right? So confidence, as we talked about confidence, it wasn't now go do this thing and you get confidence, you're mm-hmm. rewarded with it, or flick on this light switch and you get confidence. It all happens in layers. It happens after choices are made over and over again. And if we can have patience while we're making those choices and layering on these things, like confidence, like we're going to truly embody them and learn them to have for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, and anything meaningful that we're going to accomplish is going to take time. It's going to take a while to really have those foundational steps. So you put it on here really nicely, which is the ability to take a big project and to break it down into small portions, or take a big goal and break it down into small portions. And I think that you're just not going to accomplish much if you're trying to get things instant gratification. You have to have the ability to delay that gratification, work in small steps, embrace any type of progress. Any type of progress is amazing. And knowing that some days you won't have progress, but in the long run, we're really measuring things in terms of months and years versus days and weeks.
Yeah.
So we
kind of gets us right into how we apply it, or
let's talk a little bit about how we apply that in the gym. You can go first with some of the things that we might talk about for that.
Well, yeah, I think like one of the things you just mentioned is like learning stuff in layers and steps. So like when I was first learning double unders, it was so frustrating to me. Like I swear, I've seen other people struggle with them, but I swear I had the most troubling time with double unders. So
you did.
I did. I struggled a lot, and I just didn't know the right place to go. I was really trying to just force them. I was like trying to force the rope to get around me twice as I jumped in the air, and I had to go back and like really like watch a lot of videos, like read blog posts from other people, and see like what were the right steps to learn a good double under. Mm-hmm. And by learning those steps, I really got good at them, and I actually put out a book because I was like, wow, this is so easy to break down when I kind of gave myself that patience to step back and like not try to just force them every day and try to find the right route to learning them, and learning them well too. So like the book is called like Master the Double Under, not just like learn the double under. Like, and when we're talking about mastery, it comes in stages of learning that thing. Yeah,
and what I would kind of group that in, kind of our theme that we're going to group that under, is like playing the long game. Like you chose to take a step back today to probably not perform as well in certain workouts, because you could get by with double unders for a while. Like you get by, you would be exhausted, but you would get through them. But like you knew if you kept on that path, you would never get to the point that like some of our double under ninjas are at, where they're almost resting while doing big sets of 30, 40, 50 double unders. So you had to say, okay, like what is my long game with this? Where would I really like to be? And what's the now path to do this? And let me break it up into those incremental steps.
Yeah, and like another thing that we're doing is starting a nutrition jumpstart or challenge. But we're doing a 28-day focus on nutrition for people to sign up for. And our main message is like, guys, this is just we call it a jumpstart because we want people to think about it's just starting or kind of restarting their nutrition progress. We don't want them to think like, okay, on day 28, I'll have that body that I want, or I'll finally lose that 10 pounds that I've had on here for 3 years that I've been wanting to get off. This is just, where is this next step going to get me along the long-term progress? Yeah,
because what we would do to win a challenge, to get the most amount of weight dropped or the most amount of body fat decreased in 28 days is very different than the approach we would do to have the best success 280 days from now or 2.5 years from now. And we're just looking for that first 28 days to be the momentum builder into that, to set those foundational habits, versus to maximize the 28 days and most likely burn out or go backwards after that.
Yeah, it's like temper your expectations for the 28 days, knowing that in the 90 days, you're going to see a much greater goal and much greater achievement.
Yeah. Another big part of playing the long game is allowing yourself to build strength and build some muscle, and approaching some workouts in a way where you are going to go slower to be able to focus more on that. The first thing that jumps to mind for me is the whoop. Mm-hmm. If you were to try to maximize the whoop every day, so maybe your goal is weight loss and you go, okay, I on average burn 500 calories when I do a workout or when I do a long run. Okay, if I didn't do that today, it was not a good day, right? That could be your mindset. And what would really affect that though is that building some muscle, working on strength training is going to have your heart rate low. It's not going to show up as many calories, even though you are burning probably more than it's showing on your Whoop. It's not going to burn as many calories on there, and it can feel like, oh, that wasn't a successful day. But by building more muscle, by having more strength, you're going to build your metabolism long term, so you can burn more fat in the future. So the ability to kind of put first things first and prioritize in the right way for months from now, not just today or weeks from now, is huge, right? It's not just, oh, I ate a lot yesterday, let me burn this off. It's like, what's the long game I'm really playing? How do I best set myself up for success? That may mean that I weigh a pound heavier tomorrow, but I'm going to be closer to my goal weeks and months from now.
Yeah, and the Whoop is just one way for you to get gratification, right? So like you're looking at it at the end of the night or the next morning and being like, I had a great day, and kind of judging your effort of that day before based on what the Whoop's telling you. Another way we do that is with like the Sugar WOD scoreboard.
Yeah.
It's like we'll go to Sugar WOD and be like, okay, where am I sitting on the scoreboard? Okay, I'm sitting at the top. So that was now in fact a great workout. That's what we don't want to do. We want to kind of stay in our own lane. And I think having more patience does a really great job of not getting too caught up in the metrics to tell us how well we did. So it's kind of like keeping an eye off of, not getting into the Whoop too much, not getting into the Sugar WOD scores too much, not getting into the metrics too much, but having more patience with the process.
Yeah, I was just listening to Matt Frazier on Joe Rogan's podcast. Matt Frazier, 5-time fittest man on earth for the CrossFit Games, and he was saying how silly he thought it was when he first got into CrossFit, how with Olympic lifting, all the people in CrossFit would always build to like a heavy for the day. And it wasn't always a max, but like they were going, often failing lifts. They were often going, pretty heavy each day. And he was just saying how he almost never maxed out when he had Olympic lifting focus, because he did that like competitively at almost a near Olympic level. Yeah. And he said that they would often lift in, the 60 to 80% range, and that's where the magic happened. And you have to have patience to and trust in that process to realize that, yes, I don't have to lift as heavy as possible every single day to do that. So it's that balance of challenging yourself. It's not easy. It's not easy to lift at 70 to 80%. But also being patient to know that it will be there in the future, even though I'm not doing it every day. Mm-hmm. Another way this is going to show up in our classes is really the patience on any given repetition. Okay, so what we're thinking about here is we do a lot of tempo work in both Beach Fit and FTX. And can you be the person that doesn't just get by with the tempos? Yeah, we see you out there, your 3-1 X1s, and you're like more like a 1.5 half. The X is still good, and then the 1's still good at the top. But the people that are always kind of shaving a little bit on the tempos, how can you over exaggerate your tempos? How can you have patience within those exercises to move really well? And then also things like rowing and skiing requires a lot of patience to allow yourself to recover on the row coming back into the machine, on the ski as you're standing back tall. It's not about rushing into that next stroke. It's about allowing yourself to build up that kinetic energy again to apply power again and do that. And having patience is really key in both of those movements. And then we also see it in our Olympic lifts, cleans and snatches. You have to be patient coming off the floor and allow that lift to play out. If you're trying to go 0 to 100 right off the ground, you often, miss some of the steps, and you might be decently strong, but you hit these really hard plateaus that are difficult to break through because you don't have the technique to get you that next level.
Yeah, and I think it really shows in our Olympic lifts, like the clean and the snatch. I love using have patience as a cue when people are lifting, because like when you come off the ground, you want to have patience like navigating the knee. Mm-hmm. And then as you pull it into your hip crease, you want to have patience so you don't just like pop it off your knees and then like go right up with it. So I love like telling people to have patience. And I think when we have patience, it's like this contrast to being impatient and forcing the effort.
Yeah.
So like, and like you said, it happens on cardio machines as well. You can just see when that effort is just so forced and rushed and it's muscled, quote unquote. Like we're like, hey, stop muscling the bar, because that's where we're lacking that patience and kind of lacking the trust in the movement itself and the movement of our body to move that weight and to be more, move better on the machines as well.
Yeah, the clean is such a perfect metaphor to what you originally said, like patience is not, when you originally went over the definition, because it's like, it's not like you're lazily pulling the bar off the ground. You have so much tension. Like if you're going for 1 rep max clean, you have so much tension on that bar. You are pulling really hard or driving through it's really more of a drive with the legs into the floor, and you got everything engaged, but you just have that little bit of patience to allow that lift to play out. And it's not inaction, right? It's not going slow, but it's just that a little bit of intention to let things happen the way they should. So that way when you hit the thighs, you hit the hips, it's, that's when the real magic happens. You see that, explosive lift take place.
Yeah.
I want to go clean right now. I'm excited.
I'm mentally cleaning in my head right now.
Yeah, I can max out. I don't even warm up. I'm just going to go right now.
I think lately, so I'm kind of like more of a seasoned athlete, and like I have practiced patience within my lift.
You're old. Let's just get to it.
Old, experienced, gray hairs everywhere. That's why I just cut my hair today. So I'm like, oh man, too many gray hairs.
For the camera.
But recently I've been playing with like giving myself patience like in between reps, to where like, especially like when we do our quality days, and it's like, all right guys, like you're gonna hit, let's say 3 squat cleans, but there's no rush to get them done. Like you can take as much time as you want. And by giving myself patience, I'm noticing that I'm doing the lifts better, and I feel like, I don't have a timer on myself, but I feel like I'm actually doing the reps quicker. Because in the past when I would say like, all right, don't stop, it would lead to me like kind of stopping. And I would actually like kind of get in this point where I'm like, oh, I really don't want to pick up that bar, versus like, you can do this. Like give yourself grace, give yourself patience, take a deep breath, step up into the bar and go.
Yeah.
And I find like I approach the bar better, I get to it quicker, I feel like, and my lift is better overall.
Yeah, the saying I think is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So you focus on going a little bit slower, by default you move a little smoother, and then by moving smoother you actually move faster. And it's kind of cool to see that, which that's kind of our third and final big theme for this patience in the gym is using rest strategically to your advantage. And we're kind of thinking this in the terms of like pacing longer cardio type workouts, more endurance based workouts, but also using rest strategically on what Tony's talking about. You got a heavy lift, you have a for quality day, you are trying to get better at push-ups or pull-ups or ring rows, some of these body weight movements. One of the biggest mistakes that we see with something like push-ups is people say they want to get better, and then there's a set of 10 in a workout and they're doing multiple sets of 10, and instead of doing those push-ups as like 4-3-3 or 3-2-2-2-1 and doing really good full range of motion reps and allowing themselves to be okay with rest, they just go for a crappy set of unbroken 10, and then reps 5 through 10 are not all the way to the ground, the form wasn't as good, and then they wonder why they're not breaking through some of these push-up plateaus. So using rest and allowing yourself to be patient in a workout, strategically place that rest, can be huge.
Yeah, and just the form of the movement as well. Like keeping good straight body in a push-up or a hollow body in a pull-up, and like not kipping either of them when they're not supposed to be. I think that's huge to actually getting the movement better. And just, it's kind of like we just come up to the athlete and say, hey, like let's have some patience today. Like slow down. It's an easy cue to say slow down, but I think we'll start replacing that with be patient.
Yeah. I think we'll do an entire podcast here soon about pacing, because it does fall into this patience side of things. So I won't go too deep on it here, but often people are trying to go too hard early in workouts. And when we talk about pacing a workout, again, it's not about inaction, it's not about being slow or being lazy. It's about maximizing the entire duration of that workout. So 20-minute workout, how can I have the highest average intensity over the 20 minutes as opposed to the highest intensity in the first 5 minutes, and then the last 3/4 of that workout is just them trying to survive that intensity. So by being strategic with rest early, by allowing ourselves to be a little patient, even though maybe the person next to us is zooming past us. We did a workout the other day in FTX, and a lot of people tried to keep up with Tony on the run, and that was not a smart thing. So a lot of those people that thought they were pacing well, by rounds 3 and 4, got a wake up call that, oh my God, I went out too fast. So having that patience, having that grace often means staying in our own lane as well, and kind of running our own race versus running someone else's race.
Yeah, had we been like 2 weeks into patience, maybe that would have went a little bit different for people. But yeah, we haven't had that patience conversation yet, so it clearly showed. But I think everyone will start to get better at these longer workouts.
Yeah, and then when it comes to like rest days, I think that's another important aspect. Your body's feeling beat up, not just beat up in the way that you're sore and don't really want to work out, but beat up in the sense that you've hit multiple workouts several days in a row. You're due for a rest day, or maybe you just had a little nagging thing from the day before and you should modify a certain way. So it might mean showing up and modifying, it might mean taking a true rest day, but those little things can be big things, because the worst thing you can do is really activate an injury and be out for 6 months or 12 months. So that little bit of patience to push something off a week or two, push those gains off a week or two, can really set yourself up for success, versus an injury can be one of the worst things.
But if you have patience during an injury, right?
Boom. Wow, this gets so deep.
Right? That's what I'm saying. It is the Swiss Army knife. When you have patience, it can apply to like so many things. It can keep you from getting hurt, but when you do get hurt, you got to pull out the patience toolbox, because we've seen it before, is like people who are patient with their injuries and they don't try to rush back, they don't try to force movements that they know they really shouldn't be doing yet, and they just kind of give themselves grace when they have an injury. It doesn't have to be a big injury, just something that's nagging you. Like, give yourself some grace, step back from the workouts for a week, and just be patient and let yourself recover.
I just had a really good idea. I think we should get everyone hurt this first week of patience and then really test them to be able to cultivate that patience.
Aren't we always trying to hurt them? No, I'm just kidding.
Did you have anything else on this?
I don't think so. There's so much more, but we have more podcasts to do. We got weeks of this to come, guys. Don't you worry.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, guys. We're excited to share these next 5 weeks for you. Oh, one other thing that I did want to say is we are going to have printouts of these sheets. So if you guys want to dive into a brief one-page overview of this, and on the back of that, we're going to have some journal questions that you can just kind of write and journal about, things of where are you applying patience inside the gym, outside the gym, where are you maybe rushing decisions, where you could be taking a little bit more time. So just something cool that you guys can take home with you, and if you want to go deeper with it, fill that out. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next one.